New Jersey to Las Vegas, New Jersey Raider Nation, coming to you live.
These are my thoughts on the Raiders coaching situation, Raiders as a whole, but coaching is the priority. So here's my thoughts. And before I start, I'm gonna quick disclaimer. I understand, the players haven't been playing perfect. There's been mistakes by pretty much everybody. And it's a new regime, and that just takes time for things to fall into place. With that said, this is not normal, okay? The way the Raiders team is playing so well, in halves and not playing full games out, getting these big leads and losing, it's just not normal. We're so talented on paper, but the production is not there and everything like that. The overall way the Raiders are playing starts at the top, right? This season is going to be a direct reflection on Josh McDaniels. And we've had 3 games where we blew 17-point leads. That's terrible. The entire Raiders franchise history up until this year blew 5 games with 17-point leads. And we already have 3 in the first 8 games of this season. So the player's skill level doesn't drop once a new quarter or new half starts. That's the coaching scheme and plan from the other team fixing and correcting things to play better against the Raiders team, and then the Raiders not changing and adjusting what they need to adjust. So that's the simplest way of explaining why we're blowing leads, and that's a terrible reflection on the coach and coaching staff. Whatever you think about the players we have, right? The simple truth is they're very talented and they're good enough. On paper, this team should be walking into the playoffs. There's certain areas that can be improved, sure, right? But overall, and for the most part, this is a very solid, really good team. They went to the playoffs last year, and a lot of those key players, got carried over into this year. So what changed? Well, the entire coaching staff, right, is different. I understand Rich Bisaccia is not a full-time head coach, but those players loved Rich Bisaccia. They played their hearts out for that man. Under everything that happened last year, the Raiders managed to win out the last 4 games of the season just to make it into the playoffs, right? To punch their ticket into the playoffs in that wild card round. And we almost won that wild card game versus the Super Bowl contenders. That passion that the Raiders showed last year was very special. And, that was one of the reasons that the team in 2021 went to the playoffs, and only the second time since, in 20 years. The thing is, when Rich Bisaccia stepped up, right, the playbooks didn't change, the style, the schemes, they were all mostly similar. But there was a guy thrown into the head coach position that was truly a leader on and off the football field, and the players loved him and loved him for that, right? They wanted to ensure that they did whatever they could on that field on Sundays to perform for that guy. That leadership, that passion, that will to win was very eminent last year, and that's the only reason we went to the playoffs with everything that happened. That passion, urgency, whatever you want to call that from last year is what's missing this year. They're not playing with any of that. Now, I could sit here and be like, well, they should have let Rich Bisaccia have a full season to himself, see what he could have done. And, I agree, and I would kind of say that. But also, bringing in a successful offensive coordinator from New England seemed like a great idea too. I wanted that. So personally, I was split 50-50, either way the Raiders went. I felt that was going to be, a fun option to see what happens. But in a parallel universe with hindsight 2020, I would love to see where the Raiders would have been if they stuck with Rich Bisaccia for another year. I would have, 8 games in, what would the Raiders be like if we stuck with Rich Bisaccia? I think that's the question that, man, I wish we had the answer. But simply, we obviously don't. And we're stuck with this situation, and we have Josh McDaniels as the head coach, and we're now 2-6 with games that we were blowing out teams and ended up losing, games that were so close, just a couple things here and there, different, maybe would have ended up giving us the win. And Raider Nation's getting sick and tired of it, right? I think everybody is just pretty much disgusted with the way this season's going, and at this point it's up to Mark Davis, and I would love to know what that guy is thinking. And it's just going to be interesting to see how the season plays out, what kind of changes are made. But as of right now, coaching is a major problem for us, and those are my thoughts on it. So, NJ Raider Nation, out.